Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and welcome to our Friday, July the 26th live episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody, no, you know what? I know many of you who are on here have had a great week because it has definitely been a week. I just want to take you back. Last Friday, when we were having this show, we had just come off of the GOP convention, and a week after the alleged attempted shooting to the former president, and we were just in a space. I mean, I even gave Quincy Jones credit last week for creating The Wiz, because it took my mind away from what was going on last week. But on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, the day after the show, as they say in church, there was a shift in the atmosphere. And I mean a shift that has shaken the entire political realm. And that was when Joe Biden, ladies and gentlemen, on Saturday, made the announcement that he was stepping down from the 2024 presidential race, and he had nominated Vice President Kamala Harris as the nominee. And when I tell you, again, there was a shift in the atmosphere, because since that announcement, Kamala Harris has done things that I have never seen happen before, and we're going to talk about it on the show. But for many of you this week, you have definitely been energized, and it's because of what's happening in our political climate. Again, we're going to talk more about that, and because it's off to the races. And speaking of that, today is the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics, and the opening ceremonies was earlier today. I saw it in real time. It is spectacular. 594 athletes representing 43 states have worked very hard to get to this place in their career. Congratulations to all of the local athletes in my area and in your area, ladies and gentlemen. And I especially want to say congratulations to tennis phenom Coco Gauff, ladies and gentlemen. Coco Gauff, along with basketball royalty LeBron James, they served as flag bearers for the USA. It was such a moment to see these two Black athletes stand there and to have that honor. And LeBron James even spoke to that, which made it even more touching for me, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're going to see it tonight, but I have to tell you, I didn't know this before I saw it, but Lady Gaga and Celine Dion, they performed, and I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. It was really, really a great show, ladies and gentlemen. You got to see them. Also, not necessarily in Paris, but right here in Montgomery County, ladies and gentlemen, Montgomery County, Maryland, this week they unveiled a statue honoring Olympic athlete Dominique Dawes. In the 1996 Atlanta Games, Dominique became the first female African-American gymnast to win an individual medal, capturing bronze with her floor exercise performance, helping solidify her place in the United States Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame, ladies and gentlemen. And this is right up the street from my house. So if you all want to see it, if you live here in the DC area, please go up to Silver Spring. The statue is definitely on display, and I know that you all want to see it. And while I'm in Silver Spring, another congratulations to Silver Spring, because Forbes ranked Silver Spring, Maryland, as the best place to live for families. Silver Spring. A lot of people complaining, talking about the crime or whatever. Well, Silver Spring is huge. So they weren't just talking about downtown Silver Spring, for example. They're talking about Silver Spring as a whole. Congratulations to Silver Spring, again, right up the street from my house. And last, before I bring in my co-host, Bobby, it is Uncles and Aunts Day, ladies and gentlemen. So if you are an uncle or an aunt, you should be showered with gifts and calls and cards. But see, they don't do that. They don't do that for us. But uncles and aunts are very, very important in people's lives. And I can say definitely for me, because my uncles and my aunts were the people who helped to shape who I am. So, you know what, as much as I've said that, I'm going to call them tonight and let them know how much I love them. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are doing great today. We have a great show for all of you, believe me. So if you all are ready, let's get on with the chat. Bobby Edwards.
Alvin King, how are you?
How you doing?
Here we are. Okay, I am feeling Olympics. Do you see me in my colors, red, white, and blue?
Look, I pulled out the polo today because, you know, Ralph Lauren is outfitting everybody. So
you've got the Ralph Lauren. I'm wearing Tommy Hilfiger today. You know, both of them are really big into the red, white, and blue.
We got it going on. How are you doing today, my friend?
You know, I am excited. Just as you pointed out, I love the Olympic competitions. And one of the things I will honestly say to you is it's a really special, and it gets a little emotional for me because in some instances in life today, there are certain groups who have kind of like usurped the image of the American flag, such that sometimes when we see it, it signals a whole very different sentiment in us. And one of the things that I love about the Olympics is like when I see that flag waving, I feel the way that I think I should feel about the American flag. Like you know, when our athletes compete and they win, and I'm tallying up those medals every competition that happens, there's a sense of pride there. And so I'm really excited. I was at work, so I didn't see the opening. So I'm really excited to see it this evening.
Bobby, it was very hard for me tonight to give away what I saw today because it was a very, I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful ceremony. So I'm not going to give anything away, but please see it tonight. Let me say hello. Hi, Monica. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hello, Brother George. You know, that's right, baby. What a week it has been. What a week it has been. And, you know, I just want to go ahead and kick off because, Bobby, you were a part of my week this week. And for those of you, like I said, who knew what happened last Saturday, Vice President Kamala Harris has been on a roll. I mean, when I say on a roll, since that nomination, Bobby, she has what do you call it? She has gotten over $250,000 that I'm aware of. 100,000 donors.
Yeah,
it's amazing. You know, it's amazing. And we were all on a call this week, Bobby, which was a very important call. Yes.
We were on a call this week. There have been multiple kind of like communities that have been asked to gather to celebrate and raise funds for the cause. Yep.
Well, one of the calls that happened we were on was the Black Men for Harris fundraiser. And this, Bobby, I don't recall ever feeling the way I felt during that call, seeing all these men on here and raising money, coming together, these Black men, you know, coming together to do what we did. And it was for 4 hours.
For 4 hours, speaker after speaker, in a very organic way, coming to present the case, the call to action for Black men of all experiences to support this pivotal candidacy of Kamala Harris's and really explaining to people, strategizing, talking about the need to not just theoretically support it, but to actually go out to make sure that people are registered, to make sure that we support and assist people in being able to cast their vote, the most sacred act of a democracy, and doing it in solidarity as Black men. It was very powerful, very, very powerful.
Very powerful. And they also drove home the narrative that, you know, voting at a local level, voting, period. Your right to vote is important and you need to vote. And I want to also give kudos. Not only did the Black men come together, on the night before that Sunday, Black professional women came together and they raised $1.6 million. And then last night, I don't know how much money was raised, but the Black, gay, queer men came together and also same gender loving men came together, and they also had a fundraiser last night. And right before we came on, I heard that white women for Harris had a Zoom call last night, and it was about 200,000 women on there, and they raised $8.5 million for her. And this is all grassroots.
It is extraordinary. There was one other call that I was actually on, and that was, as you might imagine, because of course I am a very, very, very proud Howard University Bison. There was also an alumni call for Howard University alumni to also galvanize and support as well. And so, as you were saying, like between just this week alone, I attended 3 different calls. And as you pointed out, the call that was sponsored by Native Son for Black, queer, and same gender loving men was quite profound and powerful. And there were folks on there that we know and love here on our show, including folks like Keith Boykin and David Johns and others who were speaking to galvanize that community as well. It is, as you said, kind of it's unlike anything that I've seen before in terms of the galvanizing of these various communities with a single objective, and that is to raise funds and to elect Kamala Harris as our next president. It is really, it's a really interesting experience, and one that I hope people will understand the magnitude of these 2 candidates and what's at stake.
Well, since we're here, we're talking about Kamala Harris. There's some questions that you and I have been going back and wanted to ask each other and ask our viewers. So let's I'll let you go ahead and kick it off, Bobby.
So the first one was, your initial reaction to when you heard the actual news. I know for me, I was at brunch with some friends, and my phone just started blowing up that, see this letter. So curious, what were your initial reactions when you heard the actual news on Sunday?
Well, I had just gotten home from shopping, and I was cooking dinner, had some company here, and I was the only one watching TV. And when I heard the news, I just screamed, Joe Biden has removed himself from the election. There was a sense of relief. There was a sense of relief, and then there was a sense of gratitude for Joe Biden. And I said, you're Joe Biden, and excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I said, that was a boss ass move that you did, because you did not, one, let anyone intimidate you. You let all the hoopla go off from that GOP conference or whatever they had. And you said when it was time for you to step down, in your heart, you did what needed to be done. And he did it in a way that set off a firestorm. So I was happy that he did it.
Yes.
But at the same time, I was a little sad, like Joe, as a man, he put his pride aside and said, I have to do this. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think if I'm to be honest, I was holding for a while a bit of not resentment, but frustration, I think is the appropriate word. Frustration around the fact that if he was going to decide to do it, was it too late to really kind of galvanize the energy that we would need, that we're actually seeing? I underestimated the American population in terms of the way that it will respond in terms of Kamala's candidacy. There had certainly been discussion that if he indeed stepped down, that Kamala might not be the person that would get his endorsement and the nod. And so there was also concern about that, because I kept saying, well, they know how old he is. And if anything had happened to him, or if he were going to step down, why isn't there a clear plan of succession that was in place? And so I was really concerned about that, and wondering whether or not, if he were going to step down, should he have stepped down earlier to give us more time to get the kind of momentum that I just didn't expect the momentum. So I was a little, concerned about where we found ourselves. But again, I completely underestimated the response.
Let me say, I can understand how you felt that way.
Yeah.
And I really can, but I also have to go back to praising Joe Biden and not letting them intimidate him.
Yeah, he did it on
because he had a plan.
He had a plan.
He had a plan, and I'm sure his plan worked. Thank you. I'm glad it did. But I understand how you feel, Bobby. I really do. I don't want to desensitize what you just said, because I really do understand what you said. And I understand what you said. So, what? No, huh?
I also wonder, had his performance at the debate not been so devastating, would he have done this? I am convinced if he had had a stronger showing in that debate, I don't think he would have stepped down. I really don't think he would have seen himself as necessary. Well, first of all these other people would not have been saying step down, I don't believe.
Well, I think the debate solidified it, because I think there were people in the background who saw it, like the George Clooney, who was very honest, who they saw that there was a slight decline, and as I said in the show last week, he didn't know how to pivot, and that just did not happen on that debate stage. But and to that, I really wish that he had not debated him. I wish he had not done it and just took the route, I'm not going to debate you because you're a felon, and left it and let it. And I honestly would pull that. But I'm gonna go to the next question that I know that I want to get our viewers to weigh in on. What would VP Harris becoming the nominee? What would VP Harris becoming the president mean for us as citizens of America? I had nominee right here in my notes, but I'm saying becoming the president. What does that mean for you? I'm speaking into existence. What does that mean for you, Bobby, hearing that?
I think for me, this election is not so much about differences of opinion about how to reach a common goal for the betterment and progression of America. I feel that this particular election is about the saving of democracy versus the destruction of democracy. Like, I think the structure of our nation is literally at stake. And so her election, her becoming president, for me, signals a chance to maintain the democracy as we know it. Where people, if you look at her ad, the first ad that's just come out, one of the first questions that comes up in the ad, and I think it's a masterful ad, is, what type of country do you want to live in? Right. The other side is not asking that question. The other side is literally saying, this is the country that we're going back. We're making the country great again. And we're going to tell you everything to do, what you can't do, what you can't say, what you can do. It's a difference for me. So for me, the bottom line is democracy as we know it versus a very, very different America.
Well, I'm going to get some of the viewers in here too before I respond. Michi said Joe Biden put country. Hi, Michi. Michi said Joe Biden put country before pride and did what was the best and did what was best for America. Totally agree with you on that, Michi, 100%. And Robert says, I'm grateful for the timing. I don't think Trump would have chosen Vance knowing Biden was stepping down. Totally agree with you. How you doing, Sean? Thank you all for joining us. As far as Vice President Harris becoming the president of the United States, what that would mean for America, for me, it would just mean change. It would mean a welcome change. It would mean that I am more hopeful now that we will not go back into where we were in 2016. I definitely have a sense of anxiety from 2016 that I haven't shaken.
Absolutely.
I haven't. And so I don't want to go there. So for me, in a general sense, it would definitely mean change and an opportunity to make a difference and protect our democracy. It would mean that. So that's what it would mean for me if she.
What you mentioned is also a state of PTSD, and I think it's very real. And I think that sometimes when you had traumatic experiences, you can block some of those things out. But I've said to people, have we forgotten what it was like to every day when you turn on the news to just put your head on because something was said, a freedom was being taken away. We were being embarrassed because this president was at some event on the global stage and pushing people out of the way. And, children were being separated and put on the floors and in cages. And like every day it was something. And the whole issue of the pandemic and how it's like we have this selective memory that we just kind of push it out. And I agree with you. The whole notion, the thought of going back to something like that is just, it's not good.
So I'm not good with that. So
it's not good. Okay, so let me ask you a question though. Then, and I want to know who you think might be a potentially good running mate for the vice president. What we know now is that there is a vetting process that is going on that is being run by former Attorney General Eric Holder right now, and they are looking at a variety of candidates, including Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, Mark Kelly, Arizona Senator, Roy Cooper, North Carolina Governor, and my personal favorite right now, Andy Beshear, who's the Kentucky Governor of Kentucky. What are your thoughts of these are the front runners right now? And we have some thoughts. I've shared with you who I believe my front runner is, but I have some thoughts. But what do you think about this group that seem to be, because there are others, but these four seem to be the front runners right now?
I think they're all good front runners. I think they're all good selections. How good, I don't know. I'm gonna leave that to Eric Holder. But if I had it my way, for the research that I've done and what I feel is in my heart, I would put them in this order. Josh Shapiro would be first, Andy Beshear, and Mark Kelly. So Josh, Andy, and Mark Kelly. No offense, Roy. It's just that I don't know enough about you, but but the fact that you on this list of four, got it. But I see Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania really coming through.
Okay, and a lot of people have certainly endorsed him, principally because of the significance and importance of the state of Pennsylvania in the election. That it is a very, very important state, and the whole notion. And Michi's agreeing with you that Pennsylvania could be once again a very pivotal state. And there are some people that believe that for instance, like Mark Kelly, certainly having been, Gabby Douglas's husband, Gabby Gifford, I'm sorry, not
Gifford,
Gabby Douglas.
Gabby Gifford.
Gifford's husband, a former astronaut, like Arizona also being kind of that area of the country being a pivotal area for us. Beshear down in the South, because we cannot underestimate the importance of showing strong in the South. And so, and I just like Beshear. I like what he's been doing down in Kentucky in the face of a lot of opposition. I think he's bright. I think he's sharp. He pivots quite well. So it'll really be interesting. But there is one thing that I do want to point out. I think there has to be a strategy, and I know Eric Holder is thinking about this. And I think back to when Barack Obama was running and had to make his choice as to who was going to be the vice president candidate and nominee. And there were a lot of people who some others saw ahead of Joe Biden. But it was a very strategic choice in his history as a politician, his capacity to cross over political lines and negotiate in a bipartisan way. There is a strategy. This is not like a let's throw the coins in the air and heads or tail kind of. There's a lot of strategy being discussed right now in terms of who, alongside Kamala, will be able to.
Of course, it is.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that there is a strategy. I believe it is. For me, that kind of goes without saying. But just as you outlined the people who you your favorite. Let me just say with Andy Beshear before we move on. I think Andy Beshear would be good, but I think he's a bit too radical right now. He's a bit too he's just a bit too radical, and that's just my opinion. And I don't know that
he's not an edge.
Yeah, because he looked like he will cuss you out in a minute.
He will.
And, he looked like he would cuss you out. Well, look, the last question is, before we move on to our Let's Get Newsy, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us tonight. Let me ask you, Bobby, do you think, and viewers, you too, do you think that Vice President Harris should debate Donald Trump?
I don't think that's, for me, I don't think it's a question. I think the American people deserve to see the two of them debate. If she gets this nomination, what we saw previously were the two candidates being able to speak to one another and debate issues. If she gets the nomination, she deserves the opportunity to stand on a stage and for us to also see how he would respond to her, because I believe it will be very telling. I think he would be stupid to do it, but I believe that the American people deserve the right to see the two principal candidates debate the issues.
Okay. As I said earlier, I don't think Joe Biden should have accepted the nomination because he's beneath him. Now, I don't think Kamala Harris should debate him because ever since he has stepped into the political pool, he has dropped the standards of what a true debate is really about. And for her to get up there, even though she would, as people say, chew him alive, it's now become, a little, a poop show. The screaming and hollering. People want to see who's going to read somebody next instead of giving the candidate the opportunity to talk about their platform. He has diminished all of the professionalism in that whole arena. And so for me, I think her credentials alone, her whole presence right now says, I don't have to debate you. Let's go to the polls. And that, I just feel like what's happening right now, because he's already trying not to debate her. So I would, well, he's scared. And so I think that she should look at it like, well, that's just who you are. I would turn it into a promotion, or what do you call it? A advertisement for her. Well, look, he's running scared. He's running scared. I would turn it around. So that's just my thing. I think that, she's too smart to get up there with this idiot and do that, because that's what people want to see, a shit show.
I understand.
I'm sorry, on our show, I've cursed twice.
You didn't say poop that time.
I didn't say poop. I think they want to see that. I'm sorry. I'm not for that, but that's just how I feel with that, Bobby. So
I understand, and I agree with you that he has diminished every aspect of the political process in every possible way that he could he has. But I do believe that there is something to be said about the process of a fair election and people having the opportunity to hear candidates against one another debate issues. And I think that he will squirm. I think he will try to deflect. He will try to do all of those things. But I think it's an opportunity for her, particularly when I hear people saying she's incompetent, she's not able to do it. I think she deserves the opportunity right up on the stage against him to show the difference in who she is. Right? Because the reality of it is, for some of these people, they're not going to change their mind.
Right.
So you've got a candidate who's a felon, who's got a long list of things, and they're still like, yes, he's the one.
So that's my point. And I know we got to get on the show, but I promise you, this came up because of what you just said, Bobby, about people doubting her. And I just want those of you to put something in perspective.
Yes.
Okay. I love President Obama. He is the epitome of profession. He's the epitome of excellence for me.
Yes.
But I want people to understand, in 2008, when we elected President Obama to the office, Kamala Harris now has more experience at being the president of the United States than President Obama did in 2008.
She's been the vice president, exactly.
And people didn't know about him. But so when I hear people say, well, what has she done? Well, she wasn't sitting in no chair for 4 years curling her hair, watching Joe Biden do what he does because she's the vice president. So I'm saying that she has more experience at knowing what it's like to be the president of the United States than my beloved President Obama did in 2008. So stop asking, does she have what it takes to be the president?
I see we've touched a nerve.
Stop it. So, are y'all ready? Let's get newsier, because we've got newsy.
We do have some other things we're going to talk about tonight.
I do. Real quickly, ladies and gentlemen, in our top stories, because I know we only got an hour on the show, and we already.
But this is timely. We're touching on the topic of the day, so people understand. So yes, let's get news.
It is Kamala time. Well, I just briefly want to talk about Joe Biden's speech in the Oval Office, and just speak to how he came across to me, and because I was ready to cry. I honestly felt sad because I knew in his heart what he did. He knew it was right. He put the country before his pride, and he made it clear that the choice is now ours. And either you want democracy or a dictator. Mm-hmm. He made that clear. And so I want to say I appreciated the way he came across. It was short. It was to the point. And I know they have issues talking about he didn't hit on whatever key points. I don't know what they were talking about, but he stepped down gracefully. Mm-hmm. And so that was, how did you feel about his speech?
I think it was very much a class act. I've heard and read that, the Oval Office was, for those of us who have had the glorious blessing and pleasure of actually seeing the Oval Office, you realize it's a nice size office, but it's not a huge office. And I understand that it was packed with his family and a close circle of friends, and that it was emotional. People were tearing up and so forth. He ended a long history of dedicated service to this nation in a very classy way. And I had great respect for it. And I know that it wasn't easy for him. But I agree with what you and Michi and others have said, that, like, in my mind, as we've tried to portray a lot of bad behavior as being patriotic, I believe that what he did was truly patriotic in terms of putting the good of the nation and the saving of it. Like he said, he came back into this because he saw that we were going in a really very different direction under the leadership of the previous president. And I think his final words were a reflection of that commitment still. It's time for me to step aside. When all of the evidence supports that my losing could put us back in the hands of that person, it's time for me to step aside.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I want to move on to something that is also very, very important. And I swear to you guys, we are not talking politics all night. We are not. I promise you. But this is a really, really important thing. How many of you out here have heard of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project, also known to many as Project 2025? It is an initiative organized by the Heritage Foundation with the aim of a collection of conservative and right-wing policy proposals to reshape the federal government and consolidate executive power should the former president win the election. It is a really interesting document that literally will reshape the government as we know it. There are a long list of things. Believe me, this is just a short list. And I have a couple of things that I wanted to include as part of what this project, what this outline, this plan for America and the U.S. government would include. Things like to erase race from federal regulation. And what that would mean is that race would no longer be an issue and under which you could be protected by the federal government, like literally taking it out as a possible protection to discrimination and inequities in the government. There is a plan to put Medicare on the path to privatization, like completely allowing companies and so forth to oversee the whole issue of Medicare. And we know what happens when things like that happen because we are a capitalist society. So we know the cost of everything would change. The actual elimination of the Department of Education. That eventually we would not have a national Department of Education. that states would be able to determine at any given shot what we learn, what we don't learn. This next one that I'm going to share with you may seem, and I'm really not trying to be funny here, but I'm really trying to talk about the level of control under which this Project 2025 would have. The banning of access to pornography.
That one right there was one that I just thought, you know what?
Like literally making it illegal. Now, again, I'm not supporting or encouraging people to engage it, but I want to have the right in the United States of America, in the privacy of my home, if that's something I want to do, and I'm not offending other people or not, engaging with underage or illegal aspects of it. Just the notion of that level of control in the United States of America is what we are talking about. And surveys show that a lot of people simply do not know about Project 2025. And so we were looking at this this chart here, this survey, and the red is showing the level of, based upon racial and political aspects, who actually has an awareness of it. But guess what? We've got a friend, Joy Reid, who many of you know from her show on MSNBC, The Readout, is committing the whole week, next week, starting on Monday, 7 p.m. on MSNBC. Every night will be dedicated to more information and education around Project 2025, because it's really, really important that we familiarize ourselves with a transitional plan that is slated to go into effect if this other person wins this election. If Kamala Harris does not win the election, this is the plan that the incoming president would use as a transition to reshape the government as we know it. So starting next Monday, 7 p.m., every night on MSNBC, Joy Reid, Project 2025 Exposed.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. Thank you. And for those of you who read our captions leading into the show, we posted that your Project 2024 project is to make sure that Project 2025 does not become it does not come into existence. Okay, so that means that you need to vote and do whatever you need to do. It has been a busy week, as we know, in DC, and I want to talk about the thousands of protesters that were here in DC opposing the Israel-Hamas war that descended on the nation's capital this week. And this has been a very a fiery protest for going on almost a year. And basically, these protesters don't want the United States to provide any aid to Israel, and they want them to arrest Israel Netanyahu, ladies and gentlemen. But the thing that got me, I'm all about peaceful protest, but I mean, this week, this is what they did to Union Station. This is what Union Station looked like. And not everybody was a part of this. There were some peaceful protesters, as we see here in front of the Capitol, of where I work close to, which there were more barriers than you've ever seen in your life. But this is what they did to Union Station, and I was just appalled. I was just appalled. So, I'm all about peaceful protest. I'm all about protesting, freedom of speech, saying whatever. But if what you're doing puts in your mind that you should destroy and tear something up that had nothing, that had nothing to do with what's going over there, I think is wrong. And so I just wanted to mention that was wrong. It was a busy day for me based on what I do for a living. And I just want you to know it was a very ugly sight. So I just wanted to share it with you all. I did. It was just absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. So.
Yes, it was. It was a sad day in the city. I am now going to ask us to turn to a situation that happened in the earlier in the month, on July 6th, in Springfield, Illinois, the murder of Sonia Massey. Some of you may be familiar with her name. I encourage you, if you are not familiar with this story, to please do some research on this story. Sonia Massey contacted the police in her town, afraid that there might be a prowler outside of her home. And Deputy Sean Grayson, 30-year-old Sean Grayson, has been indicted by a grand jury last week on 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated battery. I'm sorry, as a result of the encounter with Miss Massey. Upon arriving at her home, the short of it is, the officers checked around the house. They came into the house. There was an exchange between Miss Massey and the police officer. One of the first things she said was, "Please don't hurt me." The officer said, "Why would we hurt you? You called us." At some point, they are asking her how her mental state of being is. She seemed a little agitated, they said. She was going back and forth in the house. And at some point, she goes behind the sink and she boils some water. She has some hot water is the bottom line. And they were telling her to get away from the hot water. At one point, she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And it said that she did not approach the deputies. This is the recollection of what was happening in the film. And then they tell her, "You better not toss the water. I will shoot you in your face." And she said, "Okay, I'm sorry." She ducks, and the second deputy pulls out his gun. "Drop the effing pot," Grayson screams, and then 3 gunshots are heard in the film, in the video. In the end, Sonia Massey was shot in the head and died. And so it raises a couple of questions. Why do people of color who call the police continuously end up dead? And would that be the same instance for someone who was not a person of color? And what is the training around being able to de-escalate a situation versus it end in the death of someone who is called and seeking help?
Well, from your questions, we have to have a whole show on that. Okay, so we would have to have a whole show. So
a lot. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say just one more name to add to a long list of people who have sought help from the police, and it cost their lives.
It's a sad situation, and my blessings are to her and her family. I saw the clip, as I told you before we went live, and I couldn't look at it.
It's hard.
After I saw it, it was hard to look at, but we have some work to do. And hopefully this trajectory that we on right now to get Kamala Harris in office, it will help to change things like maybe the George Floyd the law will be passed. Perhaps the oh my God, I can't the John Lewis.
Yes.
There's a law that needs to be passed. There will be some gun laws that will be passed. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I don't even. I'm so sorry that happened.
It's very sad.
I'm so sorry that happened. So thank you for reporting on that, Bobby. We're going to keep her family in prayer for real.
Please. And we say her name. We say the name of Sonia Massey.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
In other news, I'm going to go in a completely different direction and certainly far lighter than what we've been discussing in terms of politics.
You told them it ain't all about politics tonight.
It ain't all about politics. Now, if you have ever been up to New England, and I used to live in New England, one of the things that they have as a tourist attraction is the notion of whale watching. That you can actually go out and you can see whales, and sometimes you'll see a tail, and you may see the air come up from the whale hole, on the top of the head or whatever. But rarely should one expect what happened up in New Hampshire. This whale actually came up out of the water and capsized a boat. Imagine an animal that big coming up. Look at the size of the boat and look at the whale. I was pretty, and there lies the boat now that the whale has gone back down into the water. It is rare that you see such of a breach, and that's what it's called when the whale comes up and splashes back down in the water. And rarely do they actually take out a boat. Now I'm pleased to report that no one was hurt. The people that you see in the video were able to rescue the two people that were actually on the boat. The boat took the brunt of the damage. We believe the whale is fine. So all ends well. But imagine being on that boat and seeing that whale come up out of that water like that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. If you two were on a boat, if any of you on this show was on a boat that those men were on, and I was in that little boat, I can't honestly say that I would turn around and go toward that whale. So I'm going to give kudos to those two boys who rescued them, because I wouldn't have the mental capacity to do that. And so, but that's a wild story that I still can't imagine. So it will keep me out of the water a couple of more years already. So yeah. So
I was amazed when I saw that. When I saw that image of that whale.
Yeah, and in New Hampshire. Well, there you have it. There you have it, Bob.
There you go.
So we got some entertainment news, ladies and gentlemen, because there's some stuff that's really going to freak you guys out. So
yeah, I'm ready to get into this little entertainment news. Okay, so this was a letter. I'm going to read it very quickly. That was written to Dear Abby. Dear Abby, my 25-year-old son lives with his two girlfriends who are also romantically involved with each other. They share a single bedroom. One of them has a baby due this week, and the other has made noises about wanting a child. I don't approve of this arrangement and can't see it ending well. I love my son, and I have a good relationship with the three of them, but it flies in the face of my upbringing and my beliefs. My question, how do I deal with this threesome if they come to stay at my house? I don't want this going on under my roof, but I don't know how to assign bedrooms. If it were just two of them in a committed relationship, I could suck it up and put them together. But all three, I think my son knows me well enough to hopefully make the decision before coming here. I'm afraid if I assign bedrooms, according to my convictions, it will lead to a falling out. Any advice? They are in what we refer to now in 2024 as a throuple.
I'm going to say, depending on how old he is, he would be moving. He would be out. Because if I don't want, if you're an adult,
they're coming to visit.
If you're an adult, that will not be happening in my house. If I don't want it, then you need to go. That's all I can say to that. That's
there'll be no throupling in the King residence.
If I don't want it there, if I don't want it, if it's not happening to me, it's not gonna be happening no place else. So I'm not gonna let you take me in that rabbit hole. So
he said audience is not feeling the throuple.
No. So I'm not feeling the trouble. So
we move on.
So let's go to another bedroom. Let's have some more bedroom chat, because I ain't feeling.
Okay, speaking of bedrooms and so forth, I don't know. And since the Olympic has begun tonight, one of the things that I've been covering and following is the accommodations. What is it like in the Olympic Village over in Paris? And one of the things that they have brought back from the previous Olympics are these what they refer to as cardboard beds. These beds are made out of constructed cardboard. And here's an example of what they look like. And one of the things that they believe is that the beds were designed to accommodate, there's cardboard, and then there's a very thin cushion up on top of it. But one of the things that they believe is that it discourages, how can I say, company in your bed. Like, it's designed to discourage activity other than people.
Okay.
But I want you to know, you saw that cardboard bed and you saw how it was structured. But I want you to know, even when you're a certain level at the Olympics, even with a cardboard bed, it doesn't have to look like that one that we saw. Let's take a look at Simone Biles' room. That when you're the top level, this is what, and I don't know if she did it or she has a team that came in and did it. But Simone Biles' room does not look like that other room that we just saw. And if you look at that bed, it's the same bed, but it's certainly adorned at the highest level. Look at Exhibit A. There's one bedroom. And
see, I'm with Rodney. There is the floor.
I'm going to ignore what Rodney is suggesting that Olympic athletes would be on the floor.
Well, well, Bobby has taken us from. Let me see. Where you've taken us from Wales to thruples, okay, to Olympic bedroom floor.
Olympic cardboard beds.
Okay.
Full service co-host here.
Chances are that other room probably has not been to the Olympics as much as what's her name, as Simone.
Exactly.
So, okay, so there you have it. They have a team. But no, I'm not sleeping on nothing cardboard.
So as you see them competing and doing all that exercising, now you see what they're going back to their room to sleep on.
No, we're not doing that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there have been a lot of memoirs that have come out this year, but over the last this year and last year. But this year in November, our beloved Cher is releasing part 1 of her 2-part memoir. And the first memoir will be released on November the 19th. And after more than 70 years of fighting to live her life on her own terms, Cher reveals her true story in intimate detail, and y'all want to know, in a 2-part memoir, according to her publisher. With her trademark honesty and humor, Cher, the memoir traces how the diamond in the rough succeeded with no plan and little confidence to become the trailblazing superstar the world has been unable to ignore for more than half a century. Okay, so take that. Okay. No, we didn't just go through our shit.
I just keep thinking of Sean Hayes and Will and Grace when he was talking to Cher.
Well, I think I will get that memoir. I think I want to know, because Cher probably got as many stories as Jennifer Lopez. And I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay.
I will say this.
Okay, I'm gonna say that. You say what?
If she reads it, I would listen to it as well. I would love hearing her tell the story. Sometimes the Audible books are kind of fun. So I'd like to read as well. But every now and then, like, I really enjoy Trevor Noah's autobiography because he was reading it.
Okay.
So if he was reading it, I think that could be cool too.
Well, let's hear what Cher has to say. And for all of you who are probably in your 30s, your mommy and daddy probably listened to this person. And so that's when you were conceived. In a new documentary, ladies and gentlemen, that's coming on Luther Vandross called Luther Vandross Never Too Much. It is being released in 2025. The documentary premiered in the Sundance Film Festival and has now been picked up by CNN Films and owned. It will feature interviews with stars like Jamie Foxx and Mariah Carey, and it will tell the personal journey of Luther, who sadly passed in 2005 at the age of 54. And all I'm hoping is whoever does this, do it in a way that tells the truth. That's all but I have a feeling there may be a couple of different things about about how that story is told. So and I think
I know the direction that you're going, and we will wait and see.
I say please be on the lookout for that. That's what I'm going to say. Well, last week, Bobby, last week we said goodbye, and we acknowledged actually Sheila Jackson-Lee, ladies and gentlemen, who passed away. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee. And I want to just, say a couple of things about her. She was an influential and forceful voice in Washington, D.C. She served her 10th term of 20 years as a member of the United States House of Representatives. During Congressman Lee's tenure in Congress, she served on various committees, including the Committee of Foreign Affairs, Homeland Security, and Judiciary. Congressman Jackson-Lee earned a BA in political science from Yale University with honors, followed by a JD from the University of Virginia Law School. She is married to Dr. Elvin Lee, who is an administrator at the University of Houston. She has 2 children, Jason Lee, a graduate of Harvard University, and Erica Lee, graduate of Duke University and a member of the Harris County School Board of Houston. On the Friday, July the 19th, after battling cancer, Congresswoman Lee lost her life, and we at the age of 74. And we want to say thank you for your service, Madam Congressman. Thank you. And I wondered what she would say, being in this political climate that we're in right now, Bobby. What would she say?
We know that Sheila Jackson-Lee never was short on words. She was very opinionated. And I think that she would have a lot to say. But I also think that she would be in the forefront of encouraging us to really support this candidacy. So May she rest in peace and power.
Bobby, we have about two minutes, and I know we've been talking about Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm gonna give her full props every time it crosses my lips.
Yes.
We have been talking about, her all night, and I just want to take a minute, if we can, to see, to talk about how do you think we have 100 days before the actual election?
Yes.
What do you think could potentially happen in 100 days that will boost her to the presidency of the United States?
Oh, that's interesting. That's and it's interesting you should ask that, because I was having this conversation earlier with some colleagues at school before I came home today. And one of the things we talked about is that people, right or wrong, are motivated in very different ways today than they were just 5-10 years ago. The influence of certain people can galvanize people in ways that, when you think about people who become literal superstars by just being on TikTok and having all these followers, I think that there are key people. And that's why one of the people, when people were complaining that the Obamas didn't endorse her immediately, I kept saying to myself, there's a strategy at work here in terms of trying to keep momentum over a long period of time. If everybody does everything at the beginning, then you've got this big gap of what do people, I think that there will be continued endorsements of influential people that will galvanize people. Beyonce has loaned her song and her voice to it. She's got a big following, and she's a star and celebrity, but she's got a following. Somebody said Taylor Swift. Like there are a variety of people who are easily, and I don't mean it in the negative, but it's true, easily influenced to move and galvanize based upon the endorsement of certain people. And so I think that it will be strategic for this campaign to partial out, if you will, endorsements and things that will galvanize people to maintain the momentum, and then translate it into the vote, because all this money and all of it is for nothing if you don't go and vote.
Amen. Amen. Well, I want to say at this time, 100 or less than 100 on tomorrow, Sunday will be the 100-day mark. I want her team to continue doing what they're doing right now, because right now they're on a clear path to success. And so I hope they manage that and do that. Because I don't know what lies ahead. But I want them to continue doing what they've been doing this week. And I have been energized and motivated by it all. And so, again, ladies and gentlemen, as Bobby said, you need to vote. And you definitely need to vote. We will be back next week, ladies and gentlemen, and we will have a special guest with us next week. We will have Reverend Dr. Christian Frazier will be here with his new book, Unleashing Potential and Happiness Triggers. That's right. There are triggers to make you happy. Okay, and he will be here, and the Reverend Doctor has something that he wants to say to you all. Okay, our words of the week. Our words of the week that we're leaving you with this week is: sometimes not saying anything is the best answer. You see, silence can never be misquoted. Never. All right, it can never be misquoted. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Bobby and I this week for another episode of Let's Get Newsy. Bobby, I enjoy you so much. I do. I do.
Well, what some people know who watch our show, but many don't. You and I have been friends for decades. Decades. There's nothing new here.
Decades. But we
had air when we first met.
Even being friends, when you get in live as we are right now, and we're expressing our views, sometimes some things we express, in the car, you know what I'm saying? But we're expressing in front of you all and letting you all know how we really feel about something. So thank you all for being a part of Bobby and I, and thank you for joining the show tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week on a new episode of He Said.
He said.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy the Olympics, folks.
Have a good night.